With regard to the Indian scenario, I would like to know the demand going forward this year. How's the scenario right now in India? And where do you see the demand in the next few weeks and the next few months?
Thank you, Anurag. First of all, good morning to all of you. We are heading towards afternoon. As regards India, we will. I'll just give a little backup, though most of the people will be knowing about India. It's a vast country. We have a population of about 1.21 billion, which is comprising of males of about 0.62 and females of about 0.58. And it's a growing population. I think the forecast is that it's in another 10 years or 20 years time, we will be probably crossing China as the largest population in the world. The interesting part is we have got about 2/3 of the population of the country which is residing in the rural areas, and they are engaged in agriculture, which forms a backbone of our country. The growth is very alarming, yes, but at the same time it's a challenge for the world because the mouths are increasing. That means more food is required, and India will be a destination for a long time to come. Our rate of growth, the economic rate of growth, is about 6.9%, which is, as compared to what is happening in the world, probably a very good rate, and we are doing quite well that way. So having said all these things, the background, India is by and large the biggest consumer and the producer of pulses in the world. So all attention is focused on India, what they do. We are seeing, the government has given a lot of focus to this production of late. Initially, yes, we had to undergo a lot of, thoughts because the food scarcity was large. So the government went on with the grains, the focus was there. Then they went on with the oil seeds. Now the real focus has come on the pulses because it's becoming a attention seeker everywhere. And you can see for the last 2-3 years figures, if you really see the results or the efforts what the government has done has borne fruit. We were hovering around 11 to 11.2 million tons production. But it went on, and we reached last year, which was an exorbitant figure of 18.2 million tons, which was quite good if you really look at it. Though it is still not met what our consumption level was, but they have made, the efforts were on, and we are going towards that. And this year, unfortunately, we are seeing a little drop by about 5%, and the government estimates that we'll see a production of about 17.2 million tons.
So here I would like to intervene, like in spite of a crop of 18 million tons plus, we did import, India imported 3 to 3.5 million tons. With this mild drop this year, do you see the quantities going up further?
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. Basically, at the same time, the consumption is going up, and the government estimates that by this year, what it should be, the consumption level should have been about 19.9 million tons. Which leaves a shortfall of about, say, 2.9 million tons. So if you carry on from the various stages, if you see, the years-wise, unless there has been a drastic production increase where we saw last year, there will be a gap of about 2.5 to 3 million tons, which will have to be met by imports.
Right.
So as the level is going up, both the consumption and production.
And predominantly out of this 3 million tons, which are the major crops you see coming in? Which would be the most important pulse which should be coming into India?
Yeah, we see that basically the major pulses what are being imported, I think that's what we want to know. The major pulses what are being imported are yellow peas, which occupies about 50% of the share, which is the biggest, by far the biggest the imports. Otherwise, apart from that, if you see, there will be chickpeas, lentils, black matpe, pigeon peas, and mung. I think they are the major ones which are being imported.
So, if I go by your version, then definitely we need to import 3 million ton plus, which would comprise majority of yellow peas and then other pulses like chickpeas, green mung beans, black mape, the lentils would follow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's been quite informative. I'd like to now go to Tayyab. how would you describe the situation in Pakistan? Where do you see the demand coming in, and which would be the most important pulses for you?
Good afternoon, everyone. Pakistan is a country with a population of 190 million people. So it plays a significant role in the pulses industry. And as Anurag mentioned, more than 50% of the pulses trade is in the subcontinent. Pakistan is this year plagued by shortage in desi chickpeas because usually our crop is about 600 to 700,000 tons. But this year we see only 200,000 tons crop. So overall we will import an estimated 1 million tons, primarily desi chickpeas. But if the price of desi chickpeas continues to go up, we may see a shift to yellow peas. So, but in the overall mix of 1 million tons, I would say 40 to 50% will be desi chickpeas, 20 to 25% yellow peas, and then other pulses like black mapte, crimson, and Kabulis, of course, because we have our own homegrown crops like Kabuli chickpeas, mung, crimson, and desi chickpeas. But overall, this year has seen a lot of drought in the production, primarily due to weather and other factors. So we foresee about 1 million tons being imported.
As far as Bangladesh is concerned, small country, huge population. We have about 144,000 square kilometers of land. Population, as per the provisional figures of the census of 2011, about 140 million. World Bank says about 160 million. So the major driver to the economy is, of course, agriculture. There is industrialization coming up. There is development going on in the country. Poverty is coming down. GDP and other things are improving. But having said all that, the requirement of pulses remains far behind, of what is, actually required for the consumption. Estimated market right now is about 1.6 million tons for pulses, out of which we produce about 700 to 800,000 tons. The rest 50% is about imported. And like Pankajji said, the Bangladesh follows the same pattern. 50% of that is about yellow peas. Other than that, red lentils and desi chickpeas. So these three pulses mainly comprise the whole basket for Bangladesh.
Do you also see a lot of focus by the Bangladeshi government to grow more pulses in Bangladesh and become more self-sufficient?
As far as the Bangladesh government has been concerned, there has been a lot of work to ensure food security in the grains, as in rice and wheat, with floating of a lot of global tenders from time to time. Pulses has not been taking the front stage till now. And the government only steps in during the months of Ramadan to stabilize the market. And in that, the main focus is on red lentils and desi chickpeas.
So as regards imports are concerned, Bangladesh will definitely be there in the market. You don't see the import figures coming down drastically in the next few years?
Basically, no, we don't see that because, if you see the per capita consumption requirement at 45 grams per person and multiply that with 140 million, we would be standing somewhere around 2.3 million. But like I said, our market is just about 1.6 million. So that's a huge gap, a huge shortfall that needs to be filled up. And by ways of the market trends, unless there is a potential shift towards pulses cultivation or towards pulses, development programs, there is always going to be a huge shortfall and a huge market for all you gentlemen sitting over here.
We sort of a 21, close to 21 million population. We are talking relatively. Sri Lanka is a very small player in the commodity trade. Just in the industry, and talking about annual consumption, about overall the 200,000 tons of pulses. And there are three main pulses we consume purely we are depending on imports.
Can you speak a bit louder?
Yeah, that is lentils and chickpeas and the peas. These are the three major commodities we import, and where we don't have any sort of any local productions. And when it comes to lentils, it's about 100 to 120,000 tons consistently we consume for the last 10 years. And the latest development for the last, when you take last 7-8 years, we basically become 90% of the lentils we consume, we imported in a raw material, the whole lentils form, and we split over there because the lot of industries coming out, just splitting plants. There are a couple of big plants and then small splitting plants coming out. About we are talking about 15 to 20 plants. Therefore, there is no sort of a, just average is about 100 to 120,000 tons. And the next commodity is the chickpeas. We consume about 25,000 tons annually. And basically because the 100% chickpeas at the moment is Indian dominated Sri Lankan market. And the other thing is peas we imported in the split form because a very small percentage we split in Sri Lanka. And I'm sure the Australian friends, they're happy because they got the 100% market share of the split peas in Sri Lanka. And once again, lentils, it's very important when you take 2010 statistics, and more than closer to 60% of the Australian crop exported to Sri Lanka. And there are two products where we can produce, that is black mat pea and the green mung beans. Where mung beans we consume annually about 10 to 12,000 tons, and black mat pea about 6 to 7,000 tons, whereas we got local production for mung beans about 5,000 tons. We are still short about 6 to 7,000 tons. Then the black mat pea we produce about 2 to 3,000 tons, where we short about another 3 to 4,000 tons. And as I said, because it's a small market, overall about you can say about 200,000 tons of pulses, and it's very consistent. And that's what about the Sri Lankan
Do you
commodity.
see some more new plants coming in?
Yes, because it's splitting cost in Sri Lanka. It's relatively cheaper than where other things. And the other thing is the new developments is because a lot of exports going out of Sri Lanka again to the Middle East market, because we just bring down and we're splitting and the export because it's a transit time of 3 to 4 days or 5 days, hardly to the Middle East market. Therefore, because the exports also going on. Therefore, because we see going to be some more demand.
Okay, good. My friend Jairaj is looking very restless that I have not given him chance till now. But definitely I want your views as well, because lately over the last few years we've seen Jebel Ali coming in as a very strong destination for global pulses. 10 years ago, I've been broking for so many years, we never had options from buyers where they wanted options for shipments to Jebel Ali. But now Jebel Ali last 3, 4, 5 years is really important, and all major buyers want to keep an option for the cargo to be shipped there. So Jairaj, I want your views on this. How do you look at this region's importance in the next few coming years?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. MENA is a pretty interesting region. You have 19 countries comprising MENA, and if you add few other countries which normally are not included, it becomes 32 countries. Now, on the higher side, that is including 32 countries, the population of MENA is in the region of 381 million people, and it is about 9% of the world's land. Interestingly, MENA also has 12 countries which are part of the OPEC, and in the economy tops $4.5 trillion. There is a wide variation between the income levels. On the low end, you have Yemen with $1,061, and you have Qatar, which is almost $49,500. But if you look at the flip side, it only has 2% of the renewable fresh water. As per a recent FAO report of 2011, MENA region is quite vulnerable to climate changes, by which they mean that there is increased temperatures, reduced precipitation, and rising sea levels. The water scarcity which is already faced there is likely to worsen, and therefore any agriculture which is climate sensitive, and it is always climate sensitive, is to be seriously affected. Irrigation facilities are very poor. Only 12% of the population is engaged in agriculture, and the import food bill is in the region of approximately $60 billion. It's specific to UAE. I think UAE came more into being when India stopped exports of split peas, and suddenly there was a possibility. It was an opportunity for people to set up splitting plants because they had to still cater to the ethnic Indian population, which mainly eats various kind of split peas. So that's how I think UAE emerged from a low importer to about. I think today UAE imports something like 450,000 tons of pulses. And the funny thing is UAE doesn't produce any pulses at all. Well, in context to UAE, a lot is going to depend on what India is going to look and how India is going to allow exports of pulses. But if you look at MENA as a whole, yeah, definitely the way things move, we are definitely looking at an increase, continuous increase in the imports of pulses. Like I said, it's 19 countries with various different cultures, so the food habits also differ. Like you will have Egypt, which imports more of fava beans and red lentils. You will have Algeria, which import more of Kabuli chickpeas, green lentils, and white beans. Iran imports green lentils, but then Iran is importing more of number ones as compared to Algeria, which imports number twos. You have UAE, which is a mix of all the products, with majority of the products also coming in from Myanmar because they cater to the ethnic Indian population. But the way the local production is, which I think is less than 50% of what they need, the imports into MENA are definitely likely to continue.
Good. So do you see some more new capacities in the milling sector coming forward in UAE especially?
UAE we are seeing, yes, we have some more plants which are coming in. But I think to some extent the cost also discourage people from putting up maybe greenfield plants, but they tend to increase their existing capacities rather than putting up new capacities.
And if supposingly India would open up the exports of pulses, would this affect the milling sector here in UAE?
I would imagine to a certain extent it definitely do, because India has a local production, and to that extent the costs for Indian exporters would be cheaper compared to
No, but then I would like to intervene here. The Indian government definitely would not allow the exports of the Indian produce right now. What our association in India is talking to the government, that whatever we import, if they can allow the imported produce to be milled and cleaned and re-exported. So would that then have a bearing, or would it have a difference here in the milling sector?
I think so, yeah, definitely. There would be some disadvantage to the millers in the UAE.
Okay, okay. Now I'd like to ask my panelists basically what are the problems which are dogging your country, wherein you see the demand maybe is there, we could import more, but there are certain problems facing the country, the economy. Pankaj, what would you like to say?
See, we have, there are internal problems also. They are look like both, which has to be attended domestically and even international problems. Like, see, we have a typical thing, which just going back, what you asked me a question earlier. See, our demand should be there. It should be increasing. There is no doubt about it, because the vegetarian population is growing, and definitely there will be more demand for pulses. But having said the same, you see, when the prices go up, when the prices of some of the pulses goes up, there are substitutes found. Like for instance, today, if the lentils are looking good, or there'll be more demand coming up. But having said the same, we have got our constraints, other constraints, like the biggest constraint is our warehousing, because at ports we have got very limited warehouse, and then if there is more of the pulses coming in, we get restricted. Another major thing what we see is, because logistically we have got two major markets, that is the western market and the eastern market. Now, like in case of yellow peas, if you are getting a Panamax vessel today of yellow peas, probably it will work out for Mumbai, but it will not work out in Calcutta.
Right.
So those constraints, the freight constraint is a big constraint today. A Handymax freight against a Panamax freight can make it unviable. So at times, even if there is a demand, you can't encash it.
Right.
So that happens. So that is why it will be there, but it needs to be addressed. That is one thing. And second, I think we all are probably facing the same situation. That is our clearances by the government. It takes time. It does defeat the purpose of imports.
Right.
And the last and the major one, which we all have experienced, I think everyone are sitting out here, is the currency.
That I believe the entire subcontinent is dealing.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure Tayyab, Salim, Manjula, everyone will agree to it that the dollar vis-a-vis the local respective currencies that have created havoc, that have really been the main cause of misery for all the importers across the subcontinent. What would you like to say on the dollar situation, Tayyab?
Pakistani dollar has consistently devalued, and currently the import booking rates being offered by the State Bank indicate about 3.6 rupees forward booking
Okay.
for a 6-month period. So that's about 0.6 per month, which is significant.
So would the importers today hedge their currency risk in Pakistan if they were to import?
Sorry?
Would the importers today hedge at these basis these rates of forward dollar?
No, I don't think anyone would, even though there is a trend towards the dollar going up. The last 20 days, the State Bank has intervened.
Okay.
The dollar has stayed consistent.
Okay.
So people are still hopeful that maybe that the dollar
It
may
could
not go
stabilize,
up.
or it could stabilize at these current levels.
On a personal level, I think that the State Bank is not stupid. If they're giving 3.6 rupees for 6
Right.
months, I would hedge the currency.
Right.
Because naturally the banks are there to earn a
Okay.
quick buck. Secondly, you asked about the problems. Pakistan inflation is very high at 10%. So the financing cost is going up. Interest rate is at 16%, and every quarter it's going up. So the cost of doing business is consistently displaying an upward trend. Diesel prices have doubled in 3 years. Every quarter we have an increase of about 1 to 2%. And lastly, the port clearance charges, like Pankaj mentioned, consistently going up. So the cost of doing business will affect the demand situation in Pakistan.
Correct. Salim, what would you like to say?
Bangladesh was at 72 taka during immediately after the military rule that ended in 2009. From there, we have gradually moved up, and the currency went right up to 86 taka during February 2012, which has now settled back to about 83 taka levels, about 15% devaluation during the last 1 year. So that has affected the imports, consumption, requirement, everything. But visiting your question about the problems, there are a few that I would like to highlight over here. Number one, for the pulses industry, it's important that some kind of awareness programs be floated even for Bangladesh. I would take this opportunity to highlight the requirement of this industry to promote more of pulses and more of the presence for this industry on the Bangladesh market. Secondly, like I told you earlier, that a lot of land that we have mainly goes towards cultivation of grains like wheat, rice and maize. So the portion of land that we get for pulses is much restricted. At the same time, the stagnating yields and other problems from your pests and other things have kept the farmer away from actually going for more pulses production.
Right.
So the gap is widening, the demand is there, the market is there, and then I think there's some initiative that needs to be taken on part of this industry also to promote Bangladesh. Like secondly, in India or in other countries, there is the organized sector.
Yes, we have
There
an
are-
association basically which looks after
There are,
this.
yeah, there is.
I think Sudhakar, why don't you work on this? We can liaise with the Bangladesh Association and make some road shows there as well to enlighten them and to give them more idea about the sector.
And there are exchanges, where you can hedge your risks like you were asking just now.
Yeah.
Bangladesh does not have so much of a leverage or so much of a presence as far as the, exchanges are concerned.
Right.
So there is another one opportunity or avenue that can be explored
Okay.
as far as the pulses or commodities trade in whole for Bangladesh is concerned. And apart from that, the milling, like what Manjula was saying, till now Bangladesh, the pulses industry has been a cottage industry, where about 1 ton or 2 tons capacity per hour mills were there, mainly all in the traditional form. But from 2009, the milling capacities or the milling facilities have also improved a lot nowadays, with introduction of Sortex machines, etc. So there is a lot of chance for forward and backward integration in the pulses industry.
Right.
And going forward, maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, there is more scope for organization coming into this industry.
Right. So you see, even do you see some foreign participants coming into the Bangladesh market, setting up maybe mills, or what would the scope be for them like? Do you really want that they come and they enter and they set up mills? What would your ideas be on that?
There is a huge scope, there is a huge potential for that to happen. And as far as the market is concerned, there is a huge gap already present over there.
Right.
Depends only on what model or what kind this whole strategy is taken forward. So for the industrialization to take place and for the organization of this sector, there is a lot of possibility and a lot of opportunities present over there.
Okay, thanks. Manjula, what about your take on the currency?
Yeah. As I said, because these 4 or 5 commodities, governments declared is as essential commodities. Okay. Every time, because there is no, the duty is not, always it's changing, according to the international market, maybe the local price.
So how often do the duties change there in Sri Lanka?
It's very difficult to say because, if the local market is, it's going up something like that, then they, according to that, they adjust the duty, especially the duty structure, and the 2 products which the locally manufactured, can produce black mat pea and, mung beans.
So just make it clear to me, you do not have a duty structure which should be valid, say, for a year or something. You don't have a.
No, it's
Okay.
they basically they duty is fixed for 3 months.
Okay.
Every 3 months they review. For the.
Okay.
Not,
So it's
not
a quarterly review of the
something
import
like that.
duties. Okay.
And all of a sudden, sometime because now about month back, for the black mat pea and the mung beans, they increase almost 40 rupees per kilo from 50 to 90 rupees. The overnight they change because that
But was
kind
there
of
any
a
specific reason for this increase?
it's just to encourage the local farmers to grow and more because but the problem is there is not that much infrastructure to to locally manufacture these mung beans or black mat pea, but they need to encourage. Therefore, that kind of problems because especially apart from the currency, the customs duty is not fixed, and importers are really facing problems, you don't know when it's going to be happening. Therefore, that basically the government policy, the customs duty and the currency fluctuation is the major factors at the moment for the Sri Lankan commodity.
Jairaj, you trade with so many countries, obviously so many different currencies. It's like a basket for you. Where do you see the currency volatility vis-a-vis the dollar affect
Well,
your
currency
trade?
volatility has definitely affected the trade here. If you look at Iran, it's absolutely a nightmare. As Gordon had said, so many lentil containers have been right across the world. They were held up because Iranians didn't have the money to pay you because of the
Speak in
sanctions.
the mic, it's a bit difficult to hear. Can you speak in the mic directly? It's a bit difficult to
Yeah.
hear what you say.
You also have problems in Syria. Again, because of the sanctions, the Syrian currency devalued and the cost of imports went up. That led to problems. You had similar problem recently in Iraq. Currency is definitely a major problem. In terms of problems in these countries, I really wouldn't know where to start. Let me just give you a small example. I think the biggest problem in this country is the partner you choose to work with. In a very recent example, there is a seller in a country who sells to a buyer in another country, in one of these countries. And after the product is shipped out, it reaches the port of destination, and the buyer is not clearing the goods because the prices have fallen. Days turn into weeks, into months, and the seller and the buyer meet, and they say, the seller says, "Why are you not clearing the goods and paying my money? It's been so long, and it's hurting me." So the buyer looks at the seller and says, "Look at it this way." He says, "You have a younger brother in your house who is a drug addict. Do you kick him out of the house? You don't. I'm your younger brother. It's your fate I'm your younger brother, So it's more like choosing the right partner whom you work with. But having said that, yes, there are problems. There are logistical problems. There are government quarantine problems in certain countries where the goods go and they have to go through rigorous checks. In some countries, if you don't have the proper tags, the consignment can be rejected and it needs to be re-exported. Even against a letter of credit, for the funds to come to you could take weeks, months. So yes, there are a lot of problems, and Well, I think people are finding ways and means to somehow solve and go around these problems.
Okay, now apart from this, I'd like to ask my friends here what specific problems do they think they are facing in the course of imports currently, and where do we find these solutions? Pankaj, what would you like to say? Any particular area where which you would like to give your views on? Okay.
So that is, I think, one thing which, okay, to some extent we have got over it, but still it's not the final go yet. So we have to get the thing, like basically on the this fumigation issue, we have to sort it out, and long-term policy is required. Apart from that, I think basically it's all local problems which keep on coming up. So we have to tackle that. That's what it looks like.
Tayyab, what are your views?
I think we have port charges issue, especially in bulk vessels. The cost is 2% more, and I think primarily lack of government support. And third most important is the law and order situation, just caused insurance costs to go up because lack of stability is causing everything to go. But primarily the port handling charges, especially in the bulk vessels, it's 2% higher than container.
Okay.
So if
Pankaj-
that was reduced, then we would see much more cargo coming in, and I think local prices would also go down.
Jairaj, any particular issue you would like to bring up to the audience here? Any particular?
Well, like I said, I
point?
mean, there's so many countries with so many different issues. I mean, it's rather difficult to
If
pinpoint.
you were to take just UAE into contention, what would you like to say?
Could you repeat that question again,
If
please?
just UAE, if you were to consider UAE, do you see any problems, any particular problems facing?
Not in terms of UAE. It's a pretty well-oiled machinery, so it's not really a problem in the UAE.
So basically, ladies and gentlemen, if you see the entire group in front of you, they comprise of almost imports which would be more than 50-55% of global pulses trade taking place. And there are a lot of challenges for all these countries, all these participants. In spite of these challenges, they keep on importing, they keep on supporting the pulses trade. So a big hand of applause for all these gentlemen here and for all these countries which keep on importing in spite of all these adverse circumstances.